So I'm actually going to do a video from a park today because, frankly, if I was to sit in my car, I'd roast. I mean, it's almost 80 degrees today. I have a few hours in between morning deliveries and afternoon deliveries, so I thought this would be a good time as any. I wanted to talk about a few different things, but I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, and I think that I'm just going to kind of roll with the punches, and when life gives me updates, that's when I'll probably post. But for today's video, I want to kind of talk about where things started for me. So, when I was 5 years old, when I started going to kindergarten, I had to deal with a peeing issue. Now, it was every time I laughed, and I was a laughy kid, and I can't tell you how many times I had to have my mom come out, because my dad never came out because he was working from 6 to 3, so he was never available. So my mom was always the one to have to come and bring clothes or come get me, depending on what time of day the incident happened, because this happened all the time, a couple times a week, 3 times a week, depending on the week. And it wouldn't just be at school. I mean, this happened at church functions, it happened public events, it happened at every possible location that I was in a social environment. This stuff happened. And I mean, this lasted for well into my high school years, so probably around junior years when it finally started to turn. But I remember a specific incident that I still remember, even, man, I can't even think how, it's been 35 plus years to happen, but I remember the guy's name and the incident. So it was the 7th grade, and I was, they were doing a pyramid for gym class, and I ended up being picked to be in the middle part of the pyramid, which for my peeing situation is not great. I went along with it because that's what you do when you're 13 years old. So I ended up laughing, and then I ended up peeing on somebody's back, which is just stellar. So I won't name the guy's name, even though I know who he is. But it certainly did affect me for a long time. And then basically when I got to about 16 years old, everything kind of changed, because I certainly did not laugh as much. In fact, I was way more serious when I was that age. I kind of turned into my dad a little bit, because my dad, very serious guy. I mean, courteous, nice, but very much serious, even in his hobbies. I can't remember too many times where he laughed, and I barely ever saw him cry. The only time I ever remember him crying was when my grandma on my dad's side, when she died, I think was the only time I've ever seen him cry, ever. And I haven't talked to my dad in a long time for a different reason. But I feel like that I just ended up, personality-wise, turning into my dad. And I don't know how to describe it. It's just a very serious guy. I'm a very serious guy. I don't make a lot of jokes, but what's so ironic is that I love comedy. I love comedy podcasts. I watch them all the time. I listen to them all the time. But to get me to laugh, something just has to hit me in an awkward way. It's almost like comedy dodgeball, where the comedy has to come from a certain angle for me to get hit from it. So I also get to follow up actually with the peeing thing. I didn't know about Compazine, and from what I've understood about Compazine, this would have neutralized a lot of the issues. Apparently, when I laughed, it would have prevented my bladder from kicking off. So I didn't even find out about Compazine until I got married and my now ex-wife told me about it. So that could have saved me 10 years of I don't even know what difficulty, embarrassment. And the problem is that the school I was going to, because I grew up in a small town, 80% of the people that I started kindergarten with were the same people I graduated with. And there was 82 in our graduating class. The school only had, I believe at that time, just under 400 kids for 4 grades for high school. So there weren't that many of us. The problem is that when something happens when you're younger, you're not getting away from it when you're older. You're running into the same kids with just a few exceptions. You're running through the same group of kids all those years. So it's not like I couldn't run away from the issue I was having. So on the other hand, I've gotten some things from my mom that have been kind of detrimental in its own way. My eating habits, my brushing habits, my weight issues, they've all kind of resulted from, that, because I can't remember times where I didn't have some fatty food or that I ate multiple times during the day. I was a lazy kid. I was on the computer a lot, and computers then were way different. You had to, they were black and white screens, and the amount of computing power then for a computer was probably about, I don't know, 1/1000th of what my phone is right now. So I played on the computer a lot, and I ate a lot. There was always sodas, a lot of fried foods. I go to the convenience store down the street from where we grew up, and they'd have JoJo's, and oh my God, they're so good. They quarter up the potatoes, they put up breading on it, and they put ripples in the you just call them potato wedges now, but they put ripples into the potatoes and then fry them up, and then you get like 10 for $1. It's basically the equivalent of getting like 2.5 potatoes for 10 potato wedges or JoJo's or whatever you want to call them. So I didn't know about drinking sodas and having sugary cereals and having all of this stuff, the fried foods. I was probably eating fried foods for, holy cow, I haven't really stopped eating fried foods, but I've put a significant halt to it. I still have it, but just not nearly as much as I used to. So, all that to say that, my mom had dentures, my brother had dentures, my dad was the only one. He took care of his teeth, and he didn't pass along his habits to us, and maybe he should have. But that's a long time ago, and there's nothing I can do about that now. So I mean, I want to fix my teeth, but it's going to be forever. I don't see that happening anytime soon. So anyways, all this to say that I've developed, all these either genetic traits or bad habits or personality traits that hasn't served me well, at least to this point in my life. So where am I at now? I mean, I am 65 grand in the hole to the IRS, the one people you don't want to be in the hole to. I mean, my teeth are bad. I've probably lost at least, probably, if not a dozen, I've probably lost somewhere between 8 and 10. So I won't be able to do anything about that for a while, because that's another major expense. Even if I just get dentures, I know the prices of dentures has gone up significantly. It may even be 5 figures now. I have no idea. I mean, I've looked at even doing a full dental implant replacement, and that's probably in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. So I don't see that happening anytime soon. I'm probably about 40 pounds overweight. I did one of these BMI calculator thingies, and I'm dangerously close to being obese. I mean, I'm 5'9" and just over 200 pounds, and my BMI is, I believe it was like 29.7 or 29.8. So I am borderline obese. So that's been a challenge. And the worst of all of these things is the thing that I haven't talked about much, and that's the living in my car for the past 9 years. And this was actually the result of the divorce, because I literally left the marriage. She was basically accusing me that I was going to just leave her without a car. So I left her the car, and I literally walked. And I walked for like 45 minutes to the nearest transit center. I got a room for the night, and then made plans to get a rental car for a little while until I could, make some headway on getting a car for myself. Ended up taking a lot longer than I thought to get out of renting cars. I mean, I was doing that for, probably 4 years. Yeah, probably about 4 years I was renting cars. And because I was doing that, it was costing so much money that was affecting the tax situation, because I had to put more money into renting the vehicles than to paying my taxes. So for the last 5.5 years, I've been, basically buying cheap cars and trying to maintain them. And I mean, I've done a good job of that. However, my current car is at 312,000 miles, and if it wasn't a Toyota, it would probably be dead by now. It has multiple engine codes. It has at least 1 oil leak and maybe 2. Shocks are bad. I'm basically just driving it till it dies, because I don't really have another alternative, because I'm basically broke. So I think living in a car has been it's definitely affected my psyche in a couple of different ways. I mean, one, you realize that you don't need much stuff, because I have a storage unit about a half an hour from where I'm working, and I barely go visit it. I have stuff in there, and I don't need